All right, here we are. We're going to learn some quick information about some layer masking techniques here. All right, number one, what I'd like to do is I want to make a level adjustment here. I want to bring the contrast down in the background, and I just want my kids here to be higher contrast. So we have over here, we have our layers menu we recognize. We know how to go down here and go to layers and say levels. So here's my level adjustment layer, and I want to lighten up that background a little bit, right? So here's my, oops, I'm going to lighten up that background a little bit. I'm going to sort of grade out. But I don't want my kids to be grayed out. I want them to be dark like this, and I want the background to be lightened out like that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this here, which is called the layer mask. So now think about this like an open window. When this is a white rectangle, everything is coming through this adjustment here. See how I click on it and the white is over here. So I make my adjustments and it goes up and through this window and down onto my layer below. Anything that's white is being affected by this layer adjustment. Anything that will be black will be blocked. So to do that, watch what I do here. I'm going to go here to my tools. I'm going to go to my paintbrush. I'm going to make sure that I have the brush tool selected here. All right. I'm going to go down here and I click on black and white default. This little arrow next to it flip-flops the black and white here. I can also click on this color and choose a specific color, but since we want to use black, we are going to click on this here, and we're going to select black as our color. Now, the important thing to remember here is we're going to go to the layer mask itself. So I'm going to click here on the layer, and I click on the layer mask. I'll see that my properties window has changed. If you don't see this properties window, go under the window drop-down menu and find properties here with the little checkbox next to it. So I have my layer selected here, and this is my paintbrush. Now remember, when I click on my tools also, watch this line up here. See how it changes? Those are the properties for my tool. Here for my paintbrush, I want to make sure that this says normal. I'm going to make sure that the opacity says 100%, and I'm going to drop this down here, and I'm going to see that this is the actual size of my brush, right? So here's a smaller brush. Here's a larger brush. And this is the hardness of the edge of my brush. 0% hardness makes a very soft, fuzzy brush. 100% hardness makes a very crisp, sharp outline around my circle. You know, it's probably best to start somewhere in the middle, maybe 50%. We'll start from there. Also, a keyboard shortcut is if you hit the bracket keys on your keyboard, which are right below the plus and the minus, I can make the paintbrush bigger or smaller on the fly here. All right, so here's my paintbrush. I've got black as my color. I've got my layer mask selected here, and I'm going to start painting. All right, and what it looks like is it looks like I'm painting my sun darker here, but I'm actually just eliminating that layer mask. So see here where the black is painted, the layer mask is not affecting my sun, so we're seeing the background, right? And where the white is, it's showing that level adjustment. Here's my daughter. Let's darken her in here a little bit. All right, I'm just doing a sloppy job here. You can see that this brush is way too big. So there you go. So I can see there are two forms over here, and that's basically how you make a layer adjustment. Now here, if I want to clean this up a little bit, I'm just going to use my bracket keys, or you can use your drop-down menu and change the size, make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to flip-flop my color. So here I'm going to flip-flop to white, make sure my layer mask is selected, and I'm going to paint white here. And what I'm actually doing is I'm trimming that layer mask. All right, so I'm going back in. So that's the great thing about layer masking instead of erasing is I'm never really getting rid of the information. I'm just hiding it temporarily. But here I can go back in, and I can sort of clean this up a little bit like this. Okay, there we go, around the feet. Remember, I could also use my magnifying glass or my plus and minus. I can zoom in, hold my space bar, and sort of bring her feet up here. Go back to my paintbrush. Again, now that I'm closer, I can make my paintbrush a little bit smaller here. A little smaller. So I'm just cleaning up this layer mask here so that it is closer to the edge, like so. All right, and then I'm not going to take the time to go around, but you know, you can go around and clean up this whole area in here, right? Like this part here between his feet. This side here and this side here. Get the pants in here, etc., etc. All right, let's get this a little bit around his head. So there we go. So that's how you clean it up like so. So any, and I can do this for any. Right here, I just chose levels, but you could do hue and saturation, all sorts of different things. So if I were to do hue and saturation on top of this, the problem with hue and saturation is it's going to change the color of everything, right? Like the door and the leaves and everything. But I just want it to change the color of the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to right click in this window. All right, and I have to make sure I'm not right-clicking here because this gives me a whole different menu. I'm going to right-click here, and I'm going to say Add Mask to Selection. So here what I've done, you can see it reselects everything that's in that layer mask now, so the whole background. I'm going to go down to my black and white cookie, and I'm going to choose Hue and Saturation, which is color. And now I'm going to change the color, and only the color of the background is changing. See that? So I could change the leaves, I could change this here, I could make them brighter. You know, play around with these a little bit and see what you get. Okay? That's all you got to do for basic layer mask. You can stack these as many as you want. The only problem is like here where I missed this part here, I need to make sure for hue and saturation, I'm on this layer here. So I want to clean that up like this. I'm going to clean it up here. But then I need to go down to this one, and I need to clean it up as well so that I'm adjusting the contrast and the other. So, you know, the thing about this is when you make a change to one, you're going to have to make a change to the other. So I would say make sure you have this mask perfectly set up first and then do all your layers because you don't want like 50 of these things stacked high and then you have to go back and fix them up. So here I'm adjusting that, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to adjust the color too, like so. All right, perfect. One last thing that you're going to notice here is on the properties window. When I click on this here, my properties window changes for the properties of my tool. So here it would be for levels. Here it would be for hue and saturation. But when I click on the layer mask, it gives me the layer mask properties. Now we looked the other day at feathering here. So what feathering does is it feathers the edge of that mask. So I have to make sure I'm feathering the edge of both of my masks here. And what that's doing is it's softening the edge of my layer mask. The density of the layer mask is the density of this black area here. If I bring this down, it's going to be a little more gray, and it's going to sort of nullify the effect a little bit of my layer masking here. Because remember, black is all the way on and white is all the way off. Anything gray in the middle is sort of like a blend of this layer mask and what's happening below it. Don't be afraid to try and experiment. The more you use this thing, the more you're going to figure out exactly how to use it. So good luck to you, and then I'm going to show you a little bit more advanced techniques in the layer mask in the next video.